好喝吗？就在前面。
The DEA says this man is a major part of the problem. He's a rising Mexican drug lord named Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes, known simply as El Mencho.
Being a TikTok celebrity can get you killed in the blink of an eye. This happens when you become a target, and it's even worse when the people targeting you are deadly cartel members. From public assassinations to mysterious disappearances, here are 10 TikTokers who messed with cartels and paid the ultimate price. La Cholita. La Cholita was a cartel member. In fact, she belonged to not one, but two of Mexico's most dangerous cartels. One was the La Nueva Familia Michoacana cartel, while the other was the Los Viagras cartel. La Cholita was a very active gang member. She would go on missions, raids, and do whatever else was demanded of her. She became one of the baddest assassins for her cartel and developed a habit of torturing victims before killing them. She usually shared these videos on social media, especially Snapchat and TikTok, as she always derived some twisted pleasure and satisfaction from seeing her victims suffer. You see, at some point, La Cholita began to upload videos where she taunted and mocked a rival cartel, the CJNG. She would even go as far as insulting the devil, El Mencho. The final straw came in November 2020 when La Cholita made a video calling CJNG members cowards. This insult didn't go unnoticed by the malicious cartel, as they made her disappear not long after that video went live. It was as if La Cholita just vanished into thin air. No one knows her whereabouts till today. No traces, no word, no evidence. It's a spine-chilling mystery. Many suspect that she may have been killed and disposed of, while others fear she may have been kidnapped. In any case, this is certainly one of the worst punishments a cartel can give to defaulters, to make them disappear without a trace. Landy Paraga, Goiburo. Ecuadorian celebrity beauty queen Oandy Paraga is another social media influencer who found herself on the receiving end of cartel brutality. The 23-year-old model had over 1 million followers online and was renowned for featuring in beauty pageants and promoting several brand clothing lines. But then, it came as a shock when reports started flying around that the beautiful Landy Paraga had been shot dead in a restaurant by gunmen. The attack happened in May 2024, leaving fans and local authorities in shock. According to official reports, the young lady may have indirectly laid the foundation for her murder, as she had posted her location on social media moments earlier. Officials believe this was what the attackers used to trace her. Surveillance footage showed the moment the two gunmen stormed into the restaurant, causing panic as everyone fled for cover. Landy, who had been lunching with a friend, was left defenseless. In a moment of horror, one of the gunmen emptied his clip into Landy until she collapsed and died on the spot. The two mystery men then left the crime scene as quickly as they entered, without saying a word. Authorities were unable to wrap their heads around the reason for the murder. However, word on the street was that this young influencer may have gotten entangled with a cartel. Some rumors even claimed she had an affair with a drug lord's widow. One name that was repeatedly tied to Landy Paraga was a drug trafficker named Leandro Norero. While there hasn't been any clear information on what transpired between the two parties, many speculate the influencer had something to do with this drug trafficker's death. Plus, when she was asked, she refrained from making any comments on the matter. All of this seems to point to the fact that this young lady must have meddled with a drug cartel and paid the ultimate price: death. Juan Luis Lagunas Rosales. Juan Luis Lagunas Rosales was a Mexican teenager who found himself on the receiving end of a cartel's fury after he openly mocked the boss. Rosales was not your average teenager, as he was a celebrity, famous for his charisma, amusement, and crazy drinking feats online. Imagine being just 17 years old, and yet having over 34,000 followers on Twitter, over 300,000 on Instagram, and over 1 million on Facebook. His popularity earned him free tickets as a VIP to influencer parties and promotional gatherings, and he even started featuring in music videos. Juan Luis made a lot more money than most young people his age. Perhaps it was this newfound fortune that made him feel invincible and bold enough to blatantly disrespect a cartel boss. It's not clear if this was some dumb party challenge or if it was the alcohol driving him to do something this stupid. However, it was very clear that El Mencho didn't take this lightly. The mafia boss didn't just end this young man's life, but did it in a very brutal way, sending a clear message to everyone who might want to repeat his folly. You see, not long after this man posted the video, he decided to attend a party. That's when 4 gunmen barged in and came straight for Luis Rosales. His body was pumped full of bullets. Authorities say he suffered 18 bullet wounds and died on the spot. Everyone knew El Mencho was behind this, and yet no one dared accuse him of it, as there was no way to physically trace the murder back to the crime boss. Illuminati 6. In June 2022, one TikToker did the unthinkable when he took to the social media platform to talk trash against a cartel boss. But then, this wasn't just any meager cartel boss. It was El Mencho, the most brutal and ruthless of all the underworld crime bosses in Mexico.
Mira bien, hijo de tu perra madre. A mí me pela la verga el Mencho. Aquí si no 20, yo no me duermo como el pirata o el chanito de Culacán. Yo soy inmortal, yo soy intocable y yo soy un pato con el diablo, cabrón. Así que si no sabes de mí, de existencia, yo te vine a mandar fuego, Mencho.
Many citizens were already speculating what would be the fate of this arrogant TikToker, whose username was Illuminati6. While some were anticipating a reply from El Mencho himself, others were saying the young man was as good as dead. They were both right. It wasn't too long after this incident that the young man made an open apology, talking about how he regretted his actions and all.
Para el señor Mencho, pido disculpas, lo que dije no estaba bien, no estaba consciente de lo que estaba diciendo, estaba mal. Ese día amanecí bien pendejo, no me di las consecuencias, me dejé llevar por los seguidores y pido disculpas, se te quiere, a ti y a tu familia. Y Mencho, no me mates, cabrón.
You'd think this would settle things, but then, this was far from the end. Knowing El Mencho as the devil he is, everyone who followed this young man at the time knew that something dark was coming, and they were right. The young man was never heard from again. It's like he just mysteriously disappeared from the face of the earth. Many suspect he was killed in El Mencho's typical execution style, or perhaps given a fate worse than death. Gan Suang. It was on December 4th, 2022, that one of China's most believed TikTokers fell to gang violence. The young influencer had gone live to create content as usual, not knowing he would end up filming his final moments. Gan Suang, aka Fatty Goes to Africa, was a vlogger with a thirst for adventure. The 29-year-old TikToker started initially as a foodie who reviewed different types of foods across various cultures. However, his passions would drive him even further as he began to travel to different parts of the world, documenting his experiences. When Gan Suang decided to zoom his focus on Africa, that's when the real adventure began. It's not every day you see a chubby Chinese man strolling through the streets of Africa, making fun and eating food. It was a fantastic concept. As such, it didn't take long for Fatty Goes to Africa to become a success. But then, at the peak of his TikTok career, disaster struck. On December 4th, 2022, while Gan Suang was strolling through an open market in Kathmandu, Nepal, he was stabbed multiple times with a knife. Screams filled the air, and the phone that Gan had been filming with crashed to the floor, the camera still rolling. A glance at Gan Suang showed him covered in blood, wiggling in pain. Be warned, this next footage contains graphic images.
好喝吗？就在前面。
But that's not the whole story. The most chilling part of Gan's death is that he wasn't murdered by African gangs, but by a rival Chinese TikToker. Word on the street is that Gan and his killer, a 37-year-old TikToker named Fang Zhengyong, had a long-standing beef. On the day he was murdered, while filming, Gan said these words in Chinese, "I've come to beat him up." Those words were meant for Fang. Little did he know, those words would be his last, as Fang was far more violent and gangster in nature than Fatty ever imagined. The malicious TikToker silently crept up on his victim from behind until the moment he struck the death blow. Gan Suang bled to death, giving up the ghost before his body could reach the hospital. Azucena Uresti. TikToker and newscaster Azucena Uresti found herself in the unforgiving claws of cartel members after word of her opposition to cartels began to spread. However, the worst part of it all is that it was the CJNG cartel that decided to make her a target. This threat from the notorious CJNG came in 2021, and based on their reputation, it was clear that this gang was planning something very bad against the newscaster and TikToker. Their evil intentions would later reveal itself a few weeks later when Azucena found herself in a life and death situation. It turns out that the TikToker and newscaster always held a strong stance against cartels and their activities, and often commended the efforts of the government and local vigilantes in curbing the virus, which is Mexican cartels. However, cartels like the CJNG had a different view. You see, according to the CJNG, vigilante groups in Mexico were just as corrupt as the cartels themselves. In the end, the criminal organization concluded that Azucena was too biased in her arguments and was spoiling the name of the CJNG cartel and its leader. For that, the infamous El Mencho promised to kill her if she continued to act stubborn. This news caused so much panic, and even the video which was posted online went viral in Mexico. In the end, the government had to step in. They assured the public that no harm would come to Uzesti, as she was now under government protection. And shockingly, no harm has been done to Uzesti so far. Perhaps the government did something to calm down the unforgiving El Mencho, or maybe it's because Uzesti herself has stopped speaking against the CJNG. The newscaster and TikToker is still very much alive and unbothered by the threat. But still, there are those who fear that the CJNG may be waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike, and when that day comes, it will be brutal. Sabrina Duran Montero. This is Sabrina Duran Montero. A few months before she was assassinated in public, Sabrina was a TikToker who made video content revolving around thug life. But all that came to an end when the Chilean TikToker was dead in the open on October 3rd, 2023. Sabrina was shot 8 times by 2 cartel sicarios. And in case you're wondering what she did to deserve such brutality, it's simple. She pissed off the boss with her TikTok videos. It turns out that aside from being a TikToker, Sabrina was the head of a trafficking organization in Santiago. At one point, her organization had a fallout with another group that trafficked drugs, and law officers had to step in to settle the growing rivalry. Sabrina was arrested and put in jail. At the time, she wasn't so famous on TikTok. However, in the months that followed, she would grow her profile to over 670,000 followers, using the username Katrinagasman. She also occasionally referred to herself as the TikTok Narco Queen. Just in case you're wondering how this narco sweetheart managed to shoot videos and grow her TikTok account while being incarcerated, it's still a mystery the Chilean government has been unable to solve. Sabrina's influence on the app drew in lots of haters, both from the government and from rival cartels who envied her position. And so it was no surprise when this 24-year-old TikToker was confronted by 3 gunmen on her way to a salon and shot 8 times. The assassins didn't stop there. They drove her car away. The car was later found in ashes, while Sabrina was found dead in a pool of blood. Mohit Moore. Mohit Moore was an Indian TikTok celebrity who suffered very similar circumstances as Sabrina Montero. However, this young man's death was far more horrific, as his killers fired so many rounds that even his teeth were shattered by the many bullets. The nasty incident was the end result of Moore's TikTok fame and his long-standing issues with one of India's most ruthless gangs. Moore was a gym instructor who resided in the small town of Najafgarh, Delhi. However, through his creative videos and unique personality, he amassed over 500,000 followers on TikTok in just a matter of 8 months. This was a huge accomplishment for Moore, but it came at a huge price as well. You see, in the year 2019, the Indian government began to see TikTok and its influencers as a menace, stating how it made young users on the app vulnerable to bad influence and abuse. Unfortunately, Moore was one such supposed bad influence, as his videos usually presented him as a bad boy or a tough guy with a pretty face and muscular body. It didn't take long for Moore to become an idol. Anywhere he went, young people would flock to him, asking for selfies. All this was enough to attract envy from rivals, but it wasn't exactly what led to his death. Moore's death was a hit ordered by a crime boss. He had owed a small debt and refused to pay up. And so, as a way to make a statement, his life was taken. Mohit Moore was sitting in a photocopy shop, scrolling through his phone when the attackers walked in. According to police reports, over 12 bullet rounds were emptied into Moore's body, leaving behind a gory scene. Super Chinelo. Super Chinelo was a Mexican celebrity known for the unique red mask he always wore while shooting content. On August 31st, 2022, Ruben Ortega, also called Super Chinelo, was driving home with his wife and 4-year-old son. However, no one had told him that this would be his last ride. Just when this man was about to enter the gate to his house, a group of armed men who had been lying in wait jumped on him. It was an ambush. Without warning, the men pointed their guns at Ruben and his family who were seated in the car and sent a barrage of bullets flying. Ortega didn't survive. His wife barely made it out alive as she was severely injured. Luckily, his child escaped without a scratch. But no one knows how much trauma the little boy went through, seeing his dad murdered right before his eyes. By the time emergency responders could arrive at the scene, Super Chinelo was long gone. News of his death soon began to spread, and on his Facebook page, an official announcement was made. No one knows who killed this man. However, citizens and locals suggest that a cartel may be responsible, especially given that Chinelo had a habit of criticizing cartels and the Mexican government every now and then. Rodolfo Marquez. As a social media influencer with millions of followers on TikTok and other social media accounts, it's easy to get cocky. This was the case of Rodolfo Marquez, and sadly, he paid dearly for it. Born on the 15th of July 1997, Rodolfo was a young man with a lot of money. He was born into affluence, but thanks to platforms like TikTok, he made tons of cash online, so his parents' money didn't matter anymore. On July 7th, 2022, Rodolfo, aka Fofo Marquez, took some of his luxury cars and parked them in the middle of a bridge in Guadalajara, Mexico. This caused major traffic, but that's not all. Next, Rodolfo came down and started filming, boasting about how he had shut down the bridge and mocking everyone in the traffic behind him. He said things like, "We've closed it for ourselves. This is what I want to demonstrate, what money and power can do."
Ya lo andamos cerrando para nosotros. Esto es lo que quiero mostrar, lo que puede ser el dinero y el poder. O sea, literal lo cerré aquí porque yo quise iluminar. Y llevamos varios minutos aquí. Voy a hacer unos pequeños TikToks. Vean.
It was after Rodolfo pulled off this nasty stunt, blocking a major highway in Mexico with a lineup of supercars, that a cartel decided to show him who's boss. This cartel was none other than the CJNG. As it turned out, Rodolfo's video went viral, and a lot of people were pissed at what he did, as it was quite unfair and stupid. But normal, everyday folks weren't the only ones who were pissed. Cartel members were also enraged at this arrogant kid's stunt. To them, it was a slap in the face, and so they issued a warning to the young arrogant influencer. Part of the translated message reads, "We're the ones who are in charge in Jalisco and all of Mexico. We won't allow you to come to Guadalajara thinking that you can do what you want. Here in Jalisco, El Mencho is in charge. If you ever step in Guadalajara, not you or your money will save you." Rodolfo didn't just suffer psychological trauma at the hands of criminals. Even his fans and his country were against him. In the end, the heat was so much that his TikTok account got banned. He was also given community service as punishment. Today, the influencer is behind bars, regretting all of his actions. That's all for this video. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to smash the like button and subscribe to our channel to enjoy more videos like this. Bye for now.